Fahad, has the pandemic accelerated a change in the jobs market?
Definitely significant change. I think there has been a change in how employer used to look for candidates in the market and how the candidates, the job seeker, are looking for a job in the market. There has been a significant change, and it's going to continue changing.
So what does it look like now then?
Um, of course, I think according to the surveys that we have been conducting every year, we have some data information that we come across with, which is including of what candidates are looking for when they are seeking for employer and what employers are looking for when they're seeking for or hiring a new talent in the market. This going to have the expectations are going to keep changing. What it looks like, more people used to talk about flexibility in working hours, higher salary,
work-life balance,
and all those sort of the terminologies which has been kicking in from last couple of years. I see a sudden sentiment change in people asking for more job security. If the company do have revenue to continue running for long, do they have a plan for another 2-3 years down the road, or is some sort of a short, quick project? So I think the expectations from both sides is going to start changing.
Right.
At the same time, where a lot of companies put a pause on hiring during this pandemic time last year. So a lot of people, those they had a plan on changing job, where now they all going to rush in, and probably there's going to be more talent choices employers will have to select and pick the best one.
But the thing is, saying that employers are not hiring as much. If you look at the job portals and everything, there are a lot of vacancies out there, yet no one's hiring.
Oh, well, there are vacancies, but of course, if you look back last year when this whole pandemic started, what we used to hear from employers, they say probably 2 months down the road everything is going to be okay. 3 months down the road everything is going to be okay, and then we can start hiring. They've got a job postings, they've got resumes coming in, they've got a pipeline of people they want to interview, but of course, then nobody knew when it's going to end, and it just continued dragging it. And now I think November, December last year, probably the last quarter of 2020, that's when we see everybody realize it's not going to work. We just got to have to continue going with the same pace as we used to have. And 2021, I see there's going to be a lot of companies will start hiring back again.
So if you were to be able to say, let's take the top 3 things that employers look for that have changed now versus what they were before, what would those be?
When you talk about employer, I think everybody's looking for someone who's multi-talented, multitask. So, if you're hired just for someone in the individual specific role, if you happen to have more skill set and you can bring value in other departments and in other teams, or in another skill set the client potentially be looking for, there's higher chances, they're going to pick you and choose you. On the other hand, I think every company is looking for tech savvy people now, right? When we see there's a huge demand for technology adoption regardless of industry, right? And if you're tech savvy and if you have a little bit of technical knowledge, regardless of what jobs you are in, you have a better advantage. So I think these two are things where employers are more keen in looking into it now.
Do the number of years that you've been doing something really add to how valuable you are in the job market? I mean, like experience, obviously, right? No?
Well, so experience does play a part, of course, but still, I think in Malaysia, there are a lot of employers that still look at, the university degree, your credit scoring, what have you done? Even though someone with 5-10 years experience, still we get sometimes employers asking questions about what university background do you come from and all that.
Yeah.
This eventually is going to change, but I think it's still there.
Yes. Can't wait for it to change.
Yeah. But a big one on top of tech skills also, I noticed one thing, not that I've been hunting for a new job or whatever, I noticed is that language skills plays a big part in whether you get hired or not these days.
Yes, of course, it is. And one of the main reason is, of course, Malaysia is a place where a lot of global international MNCs coming and setting up shared services, the call centers and, global software development centers. So every single company, which they have a presence globally, or they have, headquarters probably in another part of the world, and they would want people with good communication skill. You might have to end up collaborating with people overseas, and that's what everybody look for.
Especially Mandarin, right? I'm going to.
Awesome. So have the gaps in the market changed also?
So the gap, I think the biggest gap right now we see is specifically in technology market. Yeah, that's where I think compared to any other industry, the tech is least impacted, and that's where we see the demand is increasing tremendously. But not just Malaysia, I think globally there's a high shortage of tech talent, and this is going to
Mm,
continue unless countries and companies have a backup plans, or they plan such thing as really training people in mass.
right.
That's the only way to go. Otherwise, the shortage of talent has been there for quite some time, and with new trend of technologies which is coming up now, specifically if I were to talk about IoT, 5G, blockchain, cybersecurity, all these new terminologies, even though we do have decent number of people in the industry, those experts in the market, but the demand is there. It's a huge imbalance of supply and demand.
So that would be a good thing. I mean, are these things something you can learn in a relatively short amount of time? So, I'm unemployed, I'm sending CVs out, and I'm doing all that sort of stuff. Can I just jump on a course about blockchain or 5G or whatever whatever you were saying?
Yep. I think, yes, this is an interesting question, and I get to ask, I've been asked this question a couple of times. Even a lot of candidates we interview, fresh graduate, and they ask, that's where the market demand is. Is there a way that I could just jump in and, probably join some sort of institute and learn things? You see, there are a lot of things that have been taught in our colleges and universities too. But if you're not getting an environment to practice,
Mm,
you're eventually not going to be able to continue that journey. That's what happened most of the time, where employers are looking for someone at least with 2 3 years experience, someone who can just come in and bring some value, rather than spending time teaching them. So institute, yes, they can give you probably 70% theoretical knowledge, 30% practical, but when you come out in a job market, the expectations are higher. And especially all these innovative technologies that I'm talking about, these
right,
are, a lot of those are a
right,
foreign investment. When they're coming to Malaysia, they would want to see the people already have knowledge and experience. They wouldn't want to set up, probably a fresh graduate program and train everyone.
right.
Maybe once in a while, yeah, there will be company who want to invest in, look at the long-term view.
But speaking of that, because you said companies want to hire someone with 2 or 3 years experience, they may have the skills and whatnot and everything. They may have gone online classes and everything. But if you're a fresh graduate, this has always been around, right? When you apply for a job, you need experience. But I'm a fresh graduate. I've
Yeah,
never worked before.
yeah,
How do I get a job?
Yeah, I think that's what fresh graduates now need to look into is, you can't just rely on a college degree. You can't just rely on a university degree. Yeah, you just gotta have to, find your way. There's an online different sort of courses, information that you can learn. So if you're applying for a job, if you are aggressively looking out for a job, do not just throw out your CV in the market on job boards. Keep applying on LinkedIn and JobStreet and other online job portal. Be
mm,
more specific. What are you targeting? Look at the job descriptions, go for the company profile, and find out more niche detail. What is specifically they're interested in? Acquire some knowledge before you go and show up for an interview. You demonstrate that you are keen and interested in learning. There's higher chances the employer are going to give you a chance.
Because if you just base it on a university degree, let's just say 2 years ago you were just starting out in your degree. By the
yeah.
time you finish, right now, boom, suddenly things have changed
I
tremendously
was,
already, right?
yeah, I was just going to say, it's like, people who are in their last year right now,
Yeah.
what of them?
Are they panicking right now? Should they be panicking?
No, I think if you talk about tech, the problem is not sitting only with fresh graduates or students there in between getting the degree, but it's also with the technology consultants, those that are experienced working in the market. Technology is shifting so fast. So if you're getting exposure, being exposed to some technology for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road, it becomes invalid. So it's the constant requirement of upgrade.
Right. Actually, that's quite reassuring because I know a lot of people think, okay, I'm in the too old bracket. I've missed the sort of tech boat, and then those who are like, I'm still studying or I've just graduated. Is it too late to start the tech boat? But what you've just said is, it's across the board. You've got to be on it and on it and sort of ride that wave and keep riding it. Otherwise, even those in the industry are out of it or outdated. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you see all these multinational companies, bank, financial services, they have to keep updating their programs, the applications, the softwares they're using, the adoptions of the cloud computing, moving from your physical servers to acquiring all those cloud solutions. So there's a constant need of upgrading, and I think this is going to be the next thing, right? For every single individual who's coming in industry, they need to be agile to really ready to be upscaling themselves. The moment you pause, you're going to be put aside, and you're just going to be uh,
Redundant.
in demand.
Right. So basically, if I'm a student right now and I'm studying finance or something, I need to be up to date about what the finance world is doing. So if I
Or
never knew,
fintech, not even
exactly,
finance, fintech. Yeah.
if I didn't know anything about fintech before, I need to get onto fintech right now, in a way, right?
Definitely, yes, it is. This is a demand, and now we're talking about fintech, and then there's a whole new era of DeFi. When you hear about blockchain, decentralized finance, it's the whole new area is coming up now. So, as you said, you're right. It's just not limiting to your academic certs and your degree and a scoring. There's You just gotta keep learning.
Don't live
I
on
just
the nutshell or something. No, on the bawah tempurung or something, right? Yeah.
I just think that, humans cannot compete with the evolution of technology. It'll always be that ball we're chasing in a way, us mere humans. Anyway, that's just me, middle-aged, not knowing about this stuff. So let's go back to you, Fahad.
Yep.
If you could summarize, if it was possible, what basic skills are employees expecting job seekers to have as fundamentals already now?
Okay. So, um, if you're talking about experience, individual, those that are looking for a job at this point of time, of course, international companies coming in, communication is one of the things that people really need to work on if they want to climb up the ladder in their career progression. A second is being agile, right? You are hired for a specific role. You need to show that you're open to acquire new knowledge, acquire new skill set. You're not just limited. This is what I'm hired for. This is what I'm going to do. So this is the advice for someone who's experienced enough in the market, and they're looking for a new job. So these two elements are going to play a big part of they picking you and choosing you, compared to the rest of the candidates in the market. If you talk about fresh graduates, my advice would be, I think when you are looking for employment, you might have to express or expose little more about your real life experiences, what a skill set that you had acquired on top of the degree you have. So the scoring will just get you somewhere, maybe land you an interview, but securing a job, you will need to talk about a little more of what real life experiences you have been exposed to and how have you implemented. So if I were to give you an example, um, if you are looking to become a banker, you want to be into a banking industry, fresh graduate, have you done any research about investments and what the personal banking look like, and do you have the concept and the clarity, not just limiting to your degree you receive, but also sort of in real life, what have you understood, what have you learned? So these sort of interests, when you expose, when you share that with the client, there's higher chances of you going to get employment.
Are other mediums of getting that across something that employers use? For example, like social media platforms like LinkedIn and stuff. If you've put in your CV and you've got an interview coming up with them, is that something that employers look at as part of their search, or the people, sifting through the CVs and stuff? Is that something that they actually look at as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do not understand that when they're applying for a job, they've got one standard resume that they're sending out to pretty much every job they're applying for. Yeah. But there's a lot of time that clients, when they have amassed, when they have a posting and they receive 200, 300 resume, they have to go through it. First thing are they going to do? They're going to do a keyword search, right? The things that I'm looking for, do I find that in my resume or not? Yeah. So I think people, especially the candidates or job seekers, may need to customize their resume for most of the job they're applying for. That will have a higher chance of landing to the right positions or
Mm.
shortlisted. So I think we don't have that many platform in Malaysia for when it comes to job seeking, right?
Mhm.
Full of only few, and the strategy of hiring is same, right? You got list of candidate apply for a job. You got to look for keywords that you have in your list from your job descriptions or your expectation from hiring manager, and then you shortlist from that, and then you pick up a phone, you call them. First thing they gauge is communication, and then you move on for the next round from that.
So it's picking the right words to put in your resume for a specific job that you're applying for.
Yes, yes. To be simplifying this, you go through a job description. There's a requirement session and there's a preferred skill session, right? You,
Mhm.
you understand that in detail, and then whatever you have done, whatever relevant experience you have, you might want to bring that in your resume in the front page. You want to speak about it more. That I've been exposed to this sort of environment. I've got exposure working on this specific tool, technology, whatsoever that will have a higher chance of landing the interview.
Right. So it's kind of putting your skill set and what experience you have to the forefront before you read how badly I did in university, because what I did 2-3 years ago has no bearing on what I've been doing and what I do now.
Yeah,
Right.
agree.
Okay. One thing, we were talking about the gaps and how, okay, the gaps now are very different to the gaps from before, and employers are always looking to fill that gap. That's the one with the biggest wide of people that they need to hire, number, sorry. Um, how do people figure out what they need to upskill in order to be able to fill that gap?
I think they just got to catch the trend. What I mean is, yep.
No, I was just meant it's with sort of jobs that get posted. For example, people are hiring. Like, what do they look out for to get a glimpse of perhaps what are those extra things that employer is looking for, um, that may be a gap in them that they have to fill for skill wise.
Skill wise, okay. I think if you ask me specifically, one of the biggest gap is the communication, and the other one I would say is presenting yourself. A lot of people are not prepared of how they're going to present themselves when they show up for an interview. So I think that's two element of it. One is now that a lot of the interviews, most of the interviews are happening online, this through a video chat or video calls and all that. Presenting yourself, being really prepared, knowing about doing a little bit of a research about the company itself, uh, going and searching, who is potentially the hiring manager, which department am I going to work with, what is the team size. If you collect all these information before you show up for an interview, there are higher chances, that they will see you as someone who is keen, who has done some work, and then you really want to get the opportunity.
In your experience, that you have seen, who have you known to be hired that didn't necessarily have the best CV or the best skill set, but because of the combination of communication, how they prepared and presented themselves, their experience were the ones that actually got the role, got the job? I guess in a way, how did they stand out as a person?
I think so. It's quite common. What we see is, sitting at an employment agency, when we are sending out resumes to client, you know this is one of the best one, the second priority, the third priority, because based on experience and relevancy. But sometimes you end up getting surprised. The one you were expecting that he or she might not going to get the job, or they have a lesser chance compared to the other one, they make it. But when you dig down a little bit more in detail, it sounds like it's more the agility. They are showing more willingness of me not just coming to do the job, but I'm here to learn and I want to grow. I want to really push my limits to understand the business, understand the job. What the other was, the reason with the relevant experience and they couldn't make it is because that's what I've done, that's what I've learned, no extra efforts given. Haven't really tried myself learning something which is not limited to my job, but I think really someone who has interest in exposing themselves, just not limiting to the job responsibility, but learning something outside. So higher chances of they have a priority.
I love that sort of agility seems to be the sort of way towards bridging that gap, going, "Look, there's a gap. Yeah, okay, but I can do something about it. Give me the course. Tell me what I need to do. I'm in there." Right?
Exactly.
Okay. JD, is there, yes?
Are you doing that? No.
I'm done. But I guess I could ask, well,
Oh, I'm
yeah.
okay.
I suppose okay, let me just ask you this one last term in terms of, because we're all about helping prepare people specifically for, being able to get jobs. What are the most important things needed when it comes to interview time? You talked
Uh,
about people not being prepared.
Number one thing, get to understand the company business, go through the company website, read through about the business model, understand the size of the company, dress code. It does play a part where a lot of people just ignore it at this point of time. Second is, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
the dress code, you company website, you study about them. If you could get a cover letter or something about your experience, a lot of people don't do it at this point of time. It's all about resume, and this is what it is. A lot of people I see, they use online different platforms to design their resume, which look pretty standard. But if you spend a little bit more time and design it the way you want to showcase yourself, definitely you stand out. So I think these couple of things, with if they work on it, and always I recommend candidates to go and practice the interview before you show up. You speak to someone you're close to, go through a bit of a practice, ask for all, you practice all of these standard questions, how long you've been in a job, what are you looking for, what are the challenges, one thing and another. So all those basic sort of questions, get a bit of a fluency before you show up for an interview,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're good.
Okay, going back to sort of like people wearing the right things and not following the dress code, is that normally something that's given out by the company or the HR department? Like, where do you find that? How do you know what's right for that place? Because JD's turned up in a suit for an interview in a place where everyone's literally wearing jeans and a t-shirt, right? So how does one know
Yeah,
what to wear?
I think this is one of the things, but people should ask details before they go for an interview, whether what sort of dress code would be preferred, right? It's somewhat this question is ignored. Nobody really pay attention to it.
What do we call the HR department or something and
Yeah,
find out?
specifically, yeah. So they should be the one telling you. Or I remember sending, we didn't realize it a long time ago, where when technology hiring started booming in the financial services, and this tech guys, which they like to wear shorts and t-shirts and jeans, and they show up for an interview in the bank wearing the same, which is completely off, right? The bank have the dress code, dress up nicely there, yeah. So I think understanding depend on industry, the job you're applying for, looking at the company background. You might ask this question, whether what sort of dress code would be suitable for me when I show up for a job interview.
Again, I think the overarching thing is just take the initiative to find out more, right?
Just out of curiosity, what's the number one thing that you see so often, which is the biggest no-no that for some reason still keeps happening? Is it dress or is it something else?
Now, apparently not the dress. If I were to pick number one thing, um, would be not opening up, not opening up.
Oh.
Um, so if you're applying for a technical job, the simple, straightforward, right? If you're applying for a software engineering job, you're required to develop a software or website or applications, whatever. It's just pretty straightforward, right? If I hired you, I know you have capability, you have done that in the past. You're probably going to get a job. All the other jobs which have a lot of human elements involved, where communications and how are you going to collaborate with the other team members, how are you as a person specifically. A lot of people do not like to talk about themselves, of what kind of person they are, just focusing more on, I'm a finance guy, I've done this project, I've done this banking, I have that much of experience. But I think you've got to be a little bit more open, sharing about yourself and how you are as a person. I think when the personality clicks, the higher chances where you will stand out compared to the other one.